Ooh.
There we go, we're recording. And I'm going to go for my external. Got so many buttons. It's fantastic. There we are, John. When you're ready, fire away.
I'm going to do it. Welcome to WP-Tonic, episode 172. And today we're talking site architecture and SEO. Before we get into today's topic, I want to give a big shout out to our sponsor, Liquid Web. Now, while Liquid Web's been known as a managed hosting company with tons of options for many years, recently they've designed a managed WordPress offering that's perfect for mission-critical sites. So if you're running one of those mission-critical sites and you're looking for improved performance, maximized uptime, and incredible support, Liquid Web is the partner that you've been looking for. Now, every Liquid Web managed WordPress customer has iThemes Sync integrated into their management portal, and that will allow you to update several sites with a single touch. If you sign up today using the discount code WP-Tonic33, you'll get a 33% discount for the next 6 months. So visit liquidweb.com/WordPress to get started and use that discount code WP-Tonic33. With that, I want to let the panel our beloved panel introduce themselves, and we'll start with Brian Lee Jackson. Who are you? What do you do?
Hi, yeah. Well, I'm the director of inbound marketing over at Keensta, where we are also a managed WordPress host, where we work with high traffic clients. And then I also have a marketing blog, Woorkup, where I spend a lot of time, and I'm working on our WP Coupons plugin at the moment.
Excellent. And Jackie?
I'm Jackie D'Elia, and I am in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I run a small web agency focusing on building custom WordPress sites for clients.
Excellent. And then Lee Jackson.
Hello, I'm Lee Jackson, and I run Angled Crown. We're a WordPress agency. He giggles every time I say that. A WordPress agency that specializes in creating WordPress themes for design agencies, and I also run the WP Innovator podcast.
You are for real. Definite. Jonathan, my co-host, introduce yourself.
Oh, hi there, folks. I'm the founder of WP-Tonic. We're a WordPress maintenance support company, your trusted partner.
Excellent. And I'm John Locke. My business is Lockedown Design, and I provide custom WordPress development and local SEO for blue-collar businesses. Before we get into today's main topic, we have a trio of news stories, and the first one is one that was felt around the web when Amazon Web Services hit several businesses. Many services were down. This happened during the week. Brian, did you have any clients or any services that were disrupted, and thoughts on this?
Yeah, we were dealing with it well before Amazon posted anything on their status page or tried to fix their status page, we said. But yeah, we started getting clients issuing support tickets, and then suddenly our intercom, which is what we use for support, went down because intercom was one of the companies affected. And so suddenly customers couldn't actually reach us via intercom. And so they started going out to Twitter and Facebook, which is of course, what people do nowadays. And I run the Twitter and Facebook. So I was dealing with that most of the morning. And actually for us, a big problem was people had certain things loading from S3 that was timing out, and it would actually take down their entire site. So it was actually important, I think, to realize that even if your web host is amazing, because nothing was wrong on our side, external dependencies can take your site down, just one even. And so we had clients that with downtime that are on our servers from the outage. So we were dealing with it pretty much all day long. It was that was not a fun day. Not a fun day.
No, it sounds like it. And, it just goes to show like how fragile the web can be at times. Jackie, did you have any clients, any services that had an outage? And if you did, how did people react?
I did. I had clients that were affected by it. I had several that were using services that were relying on Amazon to deliver that. So, and that did just like Brian was saying, it did take down sites that depended on that to be part of the homepage load or things like that. And so it basically just brought everything to a crawl. You know, there were some really good points in that article. One of them is I think Josh Strebel mentioned it, is, you know, that he'd rather be partnering with somebody that really had that sense of urgency and the so many people depending on it and using it versus having to depend on somebody that wasn't very prominent in supplying services, right? So I think that there's, you know, I mean, you have to expect that things like that are going to happen at some point. They are, but it does, you know, show you how fragile it is, because when you do have one provider that a lot of people are relying on, that when it goes down, it's messy for a lot of people. So, you know, but I think it's just part of the game. There's nothing you're really going to be able to do about it.
Definitely. Lee, I guess it was just like a typo or something like that that took all of AWS down. Did you have any clients or services on this that you know, had an outage, and what was their reaction?
I gotta be honest, my reaction was that I couldn't listen to Amazon Music. I was mortified, so that's how it started. Then I couldn't go on certain websites because they were timing out, so I was like restarting my router, thinking it was my internet connection. And then I realized that other people were posting, is the internet broken? Because most of the things I'm doing don't work. Thankfully, I had 0 clients affected whatsoever. The only thing that was affected was WP Engine, not their hosting environment, but their dashboard. If you went into the dashboard to try and go in and manage any of the sites, like, I don't know, go change your FTP or whatever, you just couldn't get in. So they obviously use something with S3. So it doesn't affect their servers. All the websites were still live, but you couldn't go in to like make a backup or do anything. There was just a notification saying, you know, our admin panels are all down until Amazon have sorted themselves out. And obviously I couldn't watch Netflix either, so that was terrible. But yeah, we weren't affected at all by Amazon, which is kind of nice. That's not to say, though, that we've not been affected by downtime. And I think what people forget, and I think Jackie was hitting on this, is that you've got to expect that no service is going to be up 24 hours a day forever, no matter how big they are. So there's a lot of people moaning about the whole Amazon thing. Everyone noticed because it affected an awful lot of things, but actually, you know, even WP Engine or never Kinster, obviously, but you know, other services do sometimes have the odd downtime, you know, and nobody died, or at least I hope to God there was no hospitals using Amazon S3. So
that's a great point. You can't rely on any hosting or any service at all to be 100% uptime. There's always things that break. You know, last week, you know, Cloudflare. This week it was this. Yeah. You know, like 6 months ago it was Linode. So, you know, no matter what. Jonathan, did you have any clients? I know we know at least one company that's on AWS. Did anybody have any thoughts on this, or?
Well, actually, because I think it might have affected the WP-Tonic a little bit, because I use a little plugin from Delicious Brain that stores photos on S3. So I don't know, but probably the cache helped not for that to show. I thought it was just a bigger, interesting observation. You know, the internet started as a defense project, basically to protect critical defense systems and distribute them so there wasn't one central server or center that if it was knocked out, it would knock out the total defense network. And that's the origins of the internet. But and it's really been gospel for the past couple of years or longer that APIs and using other people's services was going to be you know, the next great thing, and it, you know, and it's got all that kind of momentum behind it. But also there's consequences, isn't there, John?
No, definitely there is. Yeah, and you're right. Like, you know, internet started as a defense project, ARPANET. You can read about that in What the Dormouse Said. I'll link that up in show notes. But but yeah, you know,
or
like
just ask Jonathan because he remembers. So.
bailing.
He was involved in that project.
I was. Did he do that? I was actually.
Oh, and it begins. It begins. All right,
Yeah,
the battle's on.
Yeah.
The second news story that we had was
He just couldn't resist it, could he? Just,
No.
he just could hold it back.
I held back twice.
You
I
can't
held back twice.
see
It just burst out. It's my Tourette's.
If you follow Lee on his Facebook, he's been starving himself, and I think it's actually affecting his brain now.
Sorry.
Oh, excellent, excellent. Yeah, the second news story, NextGEN Gallery it patched some critical SQL injection vulnerabilities. I don't know if anybody here has clients on that. Basically, this vulnerability was a 9 out of 10 on Sucuri's dread scale. That stands for damage.
Can I jump in?
Go for it.
I've
Jump in.
really got some mixed feelings. I had mixed feelings in putting this post up, but it's not been the most active news week, has it? But the reason why I suggested it is I got such mixed feelings about these constant. I'm not going to choose one security company, but there's a host of them, and they post these stories. And I know it's important, and it's important to keep these plugins updated and keep everything. But I also think there's a consequence in the way that WordPress is seen. And the unfortunate, and I just wanted to see if the panel agree with this, that I got a feeling the unfortunate consequence is people outside the WordPress bubble start to see WordPress as being a lot less secure than other platforms. And that's a consequence of all this. What do you think, John?
Well, I think that there, you know, honestly, I'll just say this. I've approached clients before and maybe just talk about security before, like, you know, maybe throw in like a line in proposals about, you know, keeping stuff up to date, keeping plugins up to date. And they're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. You know, like, wait a minute, like, you mean this isn't like, you know, and it starts, they didn't even think about security until I mentioned that. But when you look at like any CMS, like Drupal is modules. I mean, it's like the same thing as plugins. It's, you know, essentially like the same type of formula. But this news does kind of like, you know, I think that we focus in on it. I'm not sure that the casual client like is even aware of stuff like this. A lot of the clients that I have are not even aware of this. Like I said, I've run into businesses that are larger than you might think that never even update their plugins, you know, maybe like once every blue moon. So I don't know about that. I think within the web development community, it makes people think that WordPress is insecure. I want to ask Lee, because I know that he wrote an article just like this morning, or published one about security. WordPress is not, you know, insecure. You know, is news like this like part of what inspired you to write that?
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of people misread it, and I decided not to edit it because every time I reshare it, people argue with me, which is awesome. But the idea is that I'm trying to point out that WordPress in itself is not necessarily insecure, although yes, there, you know, recently was a vulnerability and it got fixed, etc. But people often forget that no matter what platform you use, humans built it, so there is going to be some flaws now and again because none of us are infallible. And also, people also forget that not only do they use a CMS, but they also use a server. and they also have a firewall on that server, and that server has an operating system which in itself is potentially insecure. It's not been updated, it's not been patched. The firewall has all ports open, something ridiculous. You've got a poor host. There's just, you know, it bugs me when I hear this blanket statement of WordPress is insecure, and then I just kind of like this inner green monster just pours out of me, and I get angry. The only thing on this NextGEN thing though is it's quite a serious bug, and it's also quite an easy thing to have avoided, just preparing your statements correctly, etc. There's a function inside of WordPress to do this. So I was quite surprised that there was such a big glaringly obvious bug there. You know, those are the sorts of things that I would slap people internally, not physically, you know, just verbally. Don't want to get sued for doing something like that. So it seemed, you know, quite a surprising bug. But hey, again, we're human, aren't we? We miss things.
Lee the green hunk, slapping these bad plugin producers.
Brian, thoughts on this? You know, did you have anybody on NextGEN? And do you think that WordPress is perceived as insecure by this constant stream of news?
I'm sure we had clients that had problems. Fortunately, by then AWS was back up, so I wasn't doing support.
Awesome.
I'm sure. I think I remember seeing stuff in Slack about this from the internal team. But I try not to do support stuff. But I think, like Lee was saying, I think I have that same pet peeve because I wrote a while back like the 19 steps to secure your WordPress site. And whenever I share that, people always say, that's why I don't use WordPress. That's the first response. And it angers me because the 19 steps aren't to fix WordPress. They're for users to fix what they're doing wrong. It's not WordPress in itself.
Yeah.
And I was actually just updating that the other day, and the WordPress stats page actually has some really cool stats. And it's frequently updated too. And according to a couple of days ago, over 60% of WordPress users are under PHP 5.6 still.
Yep.
Which hasn't been supported for years. So that's almost a way bigger problem than NextGEN, in my opinion. Like
I would agree. I would agree.
So the NextGEN thing was kind of weird, and I don't like when people don't update their change logs. There was an issue with that too, where they kind of, I think, held off updating it because they didn't want all hell to break loose, which I understand, but it also seems like they were kind of hoping no one would notice. And security and WordFence will notice. Guaranteed they'll notice everything. So I don't think you can hide it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. But for me, I'm thankful when stuff like this comes out because, you know, I might have like one or two clients that have NextGEN. And so when I see stuff like this, I know to go update it like immediately because I don't always have like email. I'm not on the email list of like every single plugin that like I maintain for every single client site. Jackie, you know, is something that Brian said that really I've seen over and over and over is, you know, people might think that WordPress is insecure, but it's not really so much that. Sometimes they're running, I mean, I see a lot of companies like running businesses, their site is like on an outdated, not being supported version of PHP. And maybe like the hosting company doesn't want to, you know, upgrade it. And there's all these different like components. It's not just WordPress, but WordPress gets the blame. Is it just because WordPress is so big that it seems like they're always in the news for different things like this? Or if Drupal or Joomla was 27% of the web, would they be getting a bad rap like this as well?
Of course they would. I don't think it's WordPress per se, and there's lots of moving parts in WordPress. So one thing that you just brought up was, you know, plugins being sanitized. Well, a lot of people who are first starting out and writing a plugin and putting it up in the repo may not be aware of all of the coding standards that you need to go through, and may not be sanitizing, you know, user input that's coming in. And that's a big vulnerability there. So yeah, when it's in a big plugin, like, you know, that has a lot of people using it, like NextGEN, it is an issue. But the other thing is that, you know, be careful about the plugins you're loading. Make sure that, you know that they're being actively supported, they're being updated, and know who the people are that, are writing them. Are they people that you would want building a plugin for you? That would be one thing. The other thing is, I lost my train of thought. I hate when that happens. All right, we'll just go on. If I think of it, I'll say it again.
I've got something cool to share, by the way, guys.
Do it.
There's a system called ModX, which is touted as being super secure because it's not had anything reported, any vulnerability recorded for since 2014. But I just went and double checked, and they've had 3 things reported over December. So the guy that used to slap me across the head with how secure ModX is, I can't wait to just show him this link.
Okay, I did remember what I was going to say. All right, the other thing is thank you, Lee. The other thing is that part of the story about when to share when you find a vulnerability, like Sakuri, when they shared that, and the controversy about whether or not you want to make something public so that hackers are aware of exactly where to go to exploit it, versus informing everybody so that they can go update their plugin. And I think that's not an easy answer, honestly. I think, you're wondering, okay, well, what's the best course of action really? And, obviously the goal is to get the plugin updated as quickly as possible to as many people as possible so that it reduces the vulnerability. But bringing it out right in the open before they've had a chance to push out the updates is like saying, everybody, hey, it's right over here. Go here and do this, and there you go. You can just blow up their site. And I just wonder, how everybody else felt about that. It just seems odd to me.
I think at some point you have to let people know.
Yeah. And I think Security and WordFence are still trying to acquire customers because of publishing that news too. They're trying to get people to sign up for their stuff. I think that's one reason they publish it so frequently and so out there.
Yeah, just to finish off, because I want to get on to Brian's story. I was just thinking, I think I'm a bit wrong, because I was thinking about what Chris Lemmer lectured me on about being in the playground. And
right,
basically, this ain't going to change, is it, John? Because there's various factors that lead to this, and those factors ain't going to change any day soon, are they?
No, I mean, it's not just WordPress. It's not just keeping your plugins updated. You got to have like good hosting. It would help to have someone in your corner, like either an agency or consultant, somebody that can tell you like what plugins to use and help you choose good hosting and help you, take proper security measures. All those things do matter. Building a website is one thing, but maintaining it and keeping it safe and running like properly is a whole nother thing. So,
And guys, if you're not sure, connect with WP-Tonic.com.
There you go.
That's right. And get on PHP 7. Get on PHP 7.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, our last news story is like by Brian Lee Jackson. And this is all behind the scenes of launching a premium WordPress coupon plugin. Take us, go ahead and take the center stage. Just, walk us through this whole thing. And yeah.
Sure, yeah. Well, it started out, on Woorkup, I think everyone knows I do affiliate marketing. And so I like to think of myself, hopefully, as more honest affiliate marketer. I don't try to refer, I don't want to call anyone out, but I don't refer some companies I think that don't have good products. So they'll never be on my site, for the money. And I see other affiliate marketers do that. I'm sure they make lots of money. I just choose not to do that. But because of that, I usually have to work a little harder or figure out other tricks to get around all these other people. And so it started out with just trying to figure out ways to increase click-through rates and signups on my Woorkup site. And fortunately, my brother, who's a WordPress developer, I reached out to him and say, hey, can you build this for me? I need this to happen. I really wanted just like a side widget for coupons and a deals page built and a short code that I could put stuff in, which is not really that complicated, but I'm not a developer either, and it would take me longer. And so I looked out there for what was currently available. And there were a few things, but nothing that had everything, nothing that screamed out to me saying, hey, this person's building a full-fledged coupon plugin. And that's really what I wanted. So I reached out to my brother. He whipped up something. He's super fast at that stuff. And we had something up the next week on Woorkup. He started tweaking it, over weeks after I kept saying, hey, let's do this. Let's add this. I'm seeing good results from this. And after about 6 months, we were getting really good results. And I started getting lots of emails from people saying, hey, what is that thing on your site floating around? I want that. And at first I just ignored people saying, it's just something we custom built. Sorry, it's not available. We don't have time to publish it. But after ignoring so many emails, you start wondering, maybe you should do something else about this. And so we decided to finally launch our plugin as a premium plugin. I decided to go 50-50 kind of as a partner with my brother. And that's one thing. I think if people can find a developer as a partner, I think it made our job a lot easier. I probably, to be honest, if I had to go to Freelancer or something, or if I didn't know as many people as I know in the WordPress community as I do now, I probably wouldn't have ever gone through with the plugin. So I think people should really leverage like WordPress Facebook groups, even groups like WP-Tonic, like coming on here and asking, where can I find good developers? Or reaching out to you guys directly. There's tons of resources out there that are better than, I say, just going to, Freelancer or those places, because you never know what you're going to get. And if you're disappointed the first time around, it might completely cripple your entire project altogether. So fortunately, I got lucky because I know some people, and my brother does this for a living. So we partnered up. We had the decision of whether we wanted to go in the repository or not. I think that's a big decision every plugin developer has to make. Having worked at KeyCDN a while back, they have 3 plugins still in the repository, and we got lots of traffic from the repository, just sitting there from searches in the repository. Someone would search for a CDN, and it would bring up our CDN enabler plugin. So you can't beat the traffic you get from the repository. So if you don't get that, you kind of have to figure out another way to get traffic. And so for us, we were really just hoping to leverage the current traffic we had on Woorkup and the WordPress community and our affiliate program, which we later launched. And fortunately, it turned out working well for us. People liked the plugin. They started sharing with other people, and it kind of just kept building from there on. But we learned a lot of hard lessons. I don't know, going back, I wouldn't want to do another plugin, to be honest. It's a lot more work than anyone ever thinks it is. When you download a plugin off the repository, you have no idea how much work goes into it. I have a lot more respect for developers myself now, having worked on one myself. And yeah, I think just the time involved is, you got to multiply it by like 3 times what you think it's going to cost. And then, yeah, support tickets too. We really don't have that many support tickets because our coupon is fairly simple, thankfully. So a lot of the emails we get are actually support requests, feature requests. And so we have to decide between the two of us if we want to add this feature or if we not want to add it. But yeah, it's been an interesting ride. I don't want to discourage anyone from making plugins. It's been fun too, a really good learning experience. And actually, the plugin right now is actually 1/3 of our income after affiliate sales and advertising on one of our other sites. So it has actually built up into a nice stream of revenue. And I think it's good for affiliate marketers and bloggers out there to diversify your income, because you can never rely on Google. And this is one actually avenue where I feel a little safer than some of my other avenues. So, anyone have any questions?
I like, on the feature requests, I like the fact that you were saying that and the mistake I made when I first tried to launch my product about 3 years ago was I never actually got to launch when I thought I was going to launch, because I was just building in every single freaking feature I could possibly think of, or that people fed back to me. And one of the lessons you learned, which I can really resonate with, is that don't try and do everything. Simple is good. Do the core, create the core solution and launch that core solution. Don't be tempted to try and complicate things, because if you had have said yes to every single feature request you've ever had, then you'll have just made a support nightmare for yourselves. So I thought that was really wise, and that was really good in the article there.
Yeah. And one tip for that, to make that easier for people, if my brother and I both have full-time jobs outside of this, which makes it a lot easier to say no for the feature requests. So if you want to start a plugin, it's a lot easier sometimes even to do it in your spare time. And that way, if you do get feature requests, it might be easier to just say, no, we're going to pick this important one over this other one. Because I could see where if you were doing this as your full-time income, I would do it myself. I would try to add every little thing possible that every single person asks.
Brian, I wanted to ask you, what kind of licensing structure did you decide to use? Is it open source? And how did you decide how you were going to sell it?
Yeah, I mean, we did the GPL license whole ordeal thing. Even though we're not in a repository, we don't want to get backlash from that. And I'm totally fine. If someone wants to go there, take our code, they can do it. I feel like we built up enough now that I don't even care if they try. So, but we went with a yearly renewal. So obviously we had to figure out a way to still be profitable over time. And so we looked at, what other people are doing. I think there's a couple people that do one-time fees, and I really don't know how they make money other than upsells on add-ins, but I would be scared to do that because especially for support reasons and stuff. So we did, pay for a license, and after a year, you can still use it as long as you want, but we stop sending you updates for the plugin. So if you want to renew, you can keep getting the new stuff we're putting into it. And we have like a 1 website license deal, a 3 website license deal, and a unlimited developer kind of a license deal.
Nope, sounds great. Definitely everyone should go. If anyone is thinking about launching a plugin, or if they're a non-developer and they're trying to figure out like how to, get a plugin developed and launched, this is definitely an article that they should check out. I think we're up against our break. And so when we come back from our break, we're going to be talking our main topic, which is site architecture and SEO. And we will see you after the jump. We're coming back from our break, and we're with our beloved WordPress panel. And we're talking our main topic, which is site architecture and SEO. And, just to clarify, like when I think of site architecture, I'm thinking of, getting an inventory of like all the pages that you're going to have on your site, how they like fit together, how everything like fits together, URL structure, all these different things. And first thing that I wanted to ask is, I'm going to say with Lee, like in projects that you're doing, when it comes to site architecture, is this something that most projects you're thinking about before you're thinking about the design of the pages? Where does this fit when it comes to actually planning a project?
Do you mean where does SEO fit into the plan?
Not so much like where SEO fits in, but like when you're thinking about like, how the actual structure of like, say, how everything like links together, like how the pages like fit together, the actual like site structure when it comes to like URL structure.
Okay, well, I got to be honest, it's not really a conversation I have that often with people. The content, like obviously predominantly working with agencies, so they'll have usually had some sort of planning meeting where they'll have planned some of the structure, etc., and they tend to have SEO guys. Well, I say they tend to. The good agencies tend to have SEO guys involved right up from the get-go, and they'll ask me when I'm doing the build, they'll give me a list of things like, right, okay, for this particular data type, we need the URL structure to be X, Y, and Z. So I'll get that all up front, but that's very rare. finger in the air, I'd say 30% of agencies I deal with give me all of that structure up front when I'm building the projects out, so building the plugins and or the theme, etc. But in most cases, it tends to be kind of an afterthought for them. I'll do what I think is right with regards to data types, etc. And obviously you've got the permalink structure that you can override in WordPress anyway, kind of afterwards. But definitely it tends to be an afterthought for most agencies. They want to get the design side off, get the theme built, and then, oh yeah, we need to put some content in here. And oh yeah, SEO. Do you know any SEO, Lee? And I'm like, no, run away.
No, and I do think that 30-70 sounds about right. You know, Brian, and I don't know like your thoughts, but like say it like Kinsta or when you're at KeyCDN, are these like things that they think about like extensively, like, you know, how we're organizing our content, like when it comes to URL structure, and how is that going to affect our SEO? Are there like discussions about this at some point, or?
I mean, it seemed to be at both companies there was when I started.
Mm-hmm.
I think there was before, but I honestly think they're both smaller teams too. And I think one of the reasons was they didn't have time to dedicate towards this stuff. Like kind of like what Lee was saying, a lot of companies, it's the last thing they think about, or until they hire an SEO person, that's the person that deals with it. So both KeyCDN and Keysa now, I'm the person that comes in, and we are actively discussing this. Even in Slack last night, I was telling one of our other guys that, you know, I actually just 301 37 old articles, and we're moving things around. Like we just changed so much structure yesterday on our site, and we're constantly doing that because we feel like a lot of our older content is not up to par with our current stuff. And so we're checking our current rankings on it, seeing if there's any traffic for the last 6 months. If there wasn't, you know, redirect it back to the basic blog, and we don't want anyone seeing anything that's subpar. So we're always looking at structure like that, and URLs, interlinking. I think it's all very, very important. And you can see jumps overnight if you make little tweaks like that easily.
No, definitely. And something I want to follow up with, like with there, like when it comes to like 301 directs and doing like content audits, and definitely I know Jackie has thoughts on this too, but when it comes, something you said is like when it comes to focusing in on making sure that like the content is always up to date and like just killer content, that like plays a big part, like actually doing like a content audit and doing things like that. I think for a while there in SEO, a lot of people were trying to just produce mass quantities of content. And we saw a bunch of 300 or 400 word articles that really didn't say anything, really didn't mean anything. We're just kind of being published to be published, and just were forgot about it as soon as you saw them. Are people kind of waking up to producing better content at this point?
Yeah, I think there's a huge shift in the SEO industry finally towards that. I feel like I've been doing this for a long time, but
yeah,
there are other people that have been doing it for a long time too, and that's why they're successful, I think, because they jumped on it early. And for anyone listening, I mean, a quick tip to do a content audit: 2 steps. Get SEMrush. You can paste in your URL. It'll show you any keywords that you're currently ranking for. That's what a lot of people don't use it for, which I'm surprised. You want to know what you're currently ranking for already. If there's no keywords ranking and you plug the URL into your Google Analytics and there's nothing for 6 months, just delete it or redirect it or something. It's useless for you pretty much, unless you want to reshare it. But that's 2 steps to do your content. That's literally what I spent 4 hours doing yesterday, was SEMrush, Analytics, 301 all day pretty much.
The content pruning, basically, like improve or delete.
And I think because they had a lot of, like you said, the 300 to 400 word articles, because the guys there they had so little time, they tried to do what they could, and it was just not good.
Yeah.
I think that's probably what a lot of businesses do. They try, but in my opinion, they need to either hire someone or just not try at all. It's actually just a waste of time if it doesn't rank. Like, it's just, you might as well do 1 over a month rather than 5 over a month, something like that.
There you go, Jackie. And so when it comes to like your projects, Jackie, you know, so some, you know, some agencies like put some thought into SEO, and some it's maybe we're just thinking about like how the site's going to look, you know. And I know we've had like tons of discussions about content. I know that this is something you're actually like into. You're like, no, man, this content is going to be awesome. When it comes to, you know, planning out like, you know, the site architecture, URL structures, content auditing, you know, how much focus do you put on that? And is that abnormal in our industry? And is it becoming more normal, I guess? Just thoughts.
Yeah, I basically start off from a user experience perspective. I really try to take the approach of, if I'm visiting the site, what am I expecting to see? What do I expect the organization of everything to be like? So that, because many of us, and when you're working with clients, they know their what they want. They know their menu structure that they've already predefined, and they know where everything is in the layout and in the design. But visitors typically don't know all of those things. So I think, you know, paying attention to what visitors are expecting to see when you're building out a menu structure, and then when you are doing the interlinking of those pages, you know, content does really matter. And I mean, I can go back to when I owned my e-commerce business 10 years ago, right? So this was, and I didn't have the funds to pay for Google AdWords, but there were other competitors that were selling this product that I was selling that were paying for AdWords. And what I did was, it was wind chimes. They were handmade wind chimes in Texas, and they had like 72 combinations of these wind chimes. They had 7 sizes with 10 tunings. And what I ended up doing was creating a separate page for each one of those and interlinking them all with a nice little menu navigation, and had little sound clips where you could listen to each one, and did them in a little grid. But the time I spent building that out, and the thought about linking them all together to make it easy for the user, the visitor, to explore it, find the one they liked, and make a purchase, I ended up ranking above the manufacturer 18 months later. And I was #1 in Google for that search for that product. And it just goes to show you that that really does matter. Even 10 years ago, it doesn't. It still does today. So when you're doing all of that, planning that out and really thinking it through matters a lot. And I don't think many people spend as much time as they should on those things. They're not, many times I see they're not thinking clearly about what their menu structure means to somebody who's visiting the site versus what they say, hey, okay, we want to have this menu. And you go, well, why? You know, what's the purpose of it? Well, this is how we organize things here. But that may not necessarily be the best way to present that for somebody visiting your site.
No, that's a great point. It's about, organizing it in a way that people are going to find what they're actually looking for, like what they expect to find, to answer their questions, and not just what you want to push, or, you know, like, hey, here's our press releases, or whatever, stuff that they don't care about at all.
Exactly. And then the other thing is that since mobile is such a big part now of it, most of the designs and everybody's focus is on the desktop, and they may have like really important menu items down in the footer of the page. Well, on a mobile device, they may never even know that there is a footer down there, and you've got all this extra content down there. They've got to scroll up and swipe up to be able to see it all. So you really need to be thinking about, you know, what that experience is going to be like for somebody, and what, you know, somebody who's on a mobile device and they're coming to your site. Why? Why are they coming to your site on a mobile device, and what are they expecting to find? And are you making it easy for them to find it and stay there? And then that's how you get good SEO and good architecture in your site.
Something that Jackie mentioned that I want to ask Jonathan, you know, when Jackie mentions like internal linking, I know that that's something that we did like early on, was improve like our internal linking structure. And we saw like a dramatic jump in some of the terms that we were like trying to rank for on the Tonic. So, you know, when it comes to a lot of companies, do they, is that one of the things that they should be looking at? what is the benefit of internal linking there?
Well, it's very difficult because it's normally it's a resource question as well, isn't it? Because if you're just dealing with a very small company, they probably haven't got the result. They're just trying to get leads, trying to get sales, trying to pay the bills. It's day to day, week to week. Especially, let's utilize that terminology with the startup community. That's what it's like. And then hopefully you survive and you start building the website for a lot of service business that isn't solely linked to geography. Their website's going to be rather important, isn't it, John? So that when they get to that stage, that's when they start looking at how the site is converting. And what I mean by converting is not in such a direct sell, but are they guiding the audience that goes to their site to outcomes that will benefit the business on a short, medium, and long term? And a lot of companies, there's been nobody there that's been in that kind of mindset. Would you agree that, John, or do you think I'm waffling?
No, I think there's like a legitimate thing in what you're saying here. And I ask Lee this as well. When it comes to, calls to action, like on your site, when it comes to leading people down a path, is this something you see when it comes to accentuating certain pages and, having not only like internal linking at various points, but, calls to action that are leading people to take certain actions? How important is that for site traffic? Is that something that you do yourself?
Well, let me switch hats. I run another business. So I run another business called Event Engine, and we actually license a WordPress product that we developed over 4 years, and that is specifically for expos and conferences. And one of the most regular conversations I have with them is, we set them up. They've got this amazing system they can use as a plug. And one of the first things that we'll sit down and have with them is that conversation about what type of users do they have and what journey do they want to take those people on, and which hence the importance of these call to actions, where stuff is, etc. And there's usually 2 or 3 different types of visitors. There's a potential sponsor, there's somebody who wants to actually attend the event, expo, conference, and there's also say the exhibitor, and they want to encourage potential exhibitors down one path. They want to encourage visitors, potential visitors, i.e. footfall, down another path, etc. And that is a conversation in those types of companies where their site is there to survey specific, specific types of people. Then those are the sorts of conversations that do tend to happen. I think what's missing are the people who just have a general service-based business. They don't necessarily think in I want this type of visitor to go over here and give us a call. They just create a brochure site, don't they? So yeah, things like call to actions, etc., having things above the fold, all those sorts of things are conversations we'll have when people are considering their website as a vehicle to get something to happen. But I do think, and I'll open it up to other people, most people that I tend to deal with outside of the events industry, i.e. service-led businesses, don't tend to consider their website as a way of getting business. It's just, we're a business, we need a website. Build us a website, mate.
Yeah, definitely.
I saw Jonathan nodding or shaking. I couldn't quite see what was going on over there. Or having a fit.
I was grimacing, actually, because I totally understand and agree with why you used a term that I've discussed with John really rattles me, and it's this term, brochure site. that is just endemic in the development community and in the WordPress community in general. This really quite damaging term, you know, it's just a brochure site. And for a lot of businesses that, if you had that kind of attitude around any business, around its sales and lead generative mythology, I don't think you get very far. But it's endemic, in it, John? And I think if you're dealing with a very small business with a very small budget, it's totally understandable. If you're dealing with larger business, if they utilize that term internally or in any way, I think they've got a real problem.
Well, I do think that there's a chicken and egg problem. A lot of people might feel like their website is unimportant, but there's been studies that shown that consumers nowadays, and especially like when everybody's got a phone in their hand and they can just look up your site, people are making 70 to 90% of the decision about who to call before they even pick up the phone. So if your site looks like a pile of piss, they're not going to call you. And
explicit warning on iTunes.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying? But maybe you're not getting any business from your website because you haven't put any work into your website and you haven't done any SEO for your website. And so, yeah, you're not getting any business from your website because you've put zero effort into it. Something that I want to ask Brian. There you go.
I like it. I like that.
Shameless plug. There you go.
There you go. Don't look too bad.
Looks very nice. Very nice. I'm impressed. I was checking you practice what you preach, you guys.
Oh, there you go. But something I want to ask Brian, when it comes to, there's a couple things that I see people abuse a lot. And these two things are in WordPress. It's categories and tags. One thing that's epidemic is people using tags as if they think it's going to make them rank. Like if they use a tag for every keyword that they want to rank for, somebody must have told them somewhere that is like anchor text. Maybe that's the only thing I can figure. And people putting like 15 categories like on each post. As well. Something that I did recently, and this was something that I heard Rebecca Gill say, and it really clicked in my mind, and I went and did like a total reshuffling of all my content, is only putting like one category on each post to make sure that it falls in a specific bucket, and keeping tags to like a minimum. I was already doing that. A lot of people are out of control with it though. What's your thoughts on categories and tags as taxonomies and SEO indicators in WordPress?
So the tags, in my opinion, are completely useless, and I no index them on every site I have them on, and I actually hide them. The only way we use it at Keensta is for internal searching. So we have so many posts, maybe we'll click a tag and find the other post with that tag on it for internal research. But we don't show tags. I don't show tags on any of my sites. They're all no indexed with Yoast. So I think they're completely pointless. Why would you want Google to land on a tag? Like maybe they got to your website, but there's a lot better pages you can index first in Google than the tag page. The categories is kind of a little different in my opinion, because there's little tricks in WordPress. WP Beginner actually has a good article on how to add in your WordPress theme descriptions to your categories in text, and Yoast will pick that up too. And so then if that page happens to get indexed, it's very unlikely just because there's not a lot of content. If it does get indexed, I've seen some people do it really well. This is actually something I'm working on actually this week. So it's kind of ironic that you asked that. But I'm writing descriptions for the categories pages, and right now they're no index, but I'm going to unindex them and allow them for Google to start crawling them and see actually what happens. So I think, because if someone has a category page, I think it's still useful. You know, if you have a category of blog posts, the tags, in my opinion, is a little less, because people, like you said, they'll add 50 tags and you lose some of the hierarchy and structure with that. Whereas categories, it seems, if you have 1 or 2 categories a post is in, the information should still be relevant to the user when they hit it.
So like a tag page, and I'm with you. I know index tag pages too. I couldn't tell you. I think I have about it's probably about 15 or tops like 20 categories on my site, and those I have indexed with descriptions. But when it comes to that, like, you know, what goes into like writing a good description for categories?
I'm trying to think of the guy I can't think of his site. There's some guy I saw the other day that does it really, really well. Like I saw that, I was like, that's actually what inspired me to do it. Because I put that URL on Google to see what actually Google was seeing it. Like it turned out really, really nice. And so I kind of was going to copy him. But he has a nice description. And then he actually added some navigation with HTML under that description. And then his categories fall under that. So he actually turned it into almost a full-blown page kind of a thing. And I could tell he spent many hours on each category page writing unique content. He probably had a good 400 to 500 words. So it was almost a page, to be honest, for his categories. And then he had a nice layout of his categories underneath that content. So it worked really, really well. And obviously, if you have 10 categories, that's 10 additional pages in Google that you could potentially rank. So
I'm just thinking, I mean, you guys are talking about categories though, but I don't think I've ever landed on a category page. My searches are so specific. And if I'm thinking now of look at, like, even if I've looked at Lee Jackson Dev's website, the category pages, the archive pages, I don't think I get many hits at all. It's usually specific blogs that seem to get. I've never really thought about this until you guys were talking about categories. I can't remember ever landing on one. And again, my category pages don't seem to get much traffic at all. So,
well, it's probably because you haven't put any content on them. Mine don't either get any traffic right now, but I think the guys that I was looking at, I know they get content or traffic to that page because I looked in SEMrush. And so I think if you do spend time, I'm going to actually this next couple of weeks.
Yeah. I
think you could actually get traffic to those pages. Maybe you don't want to, though.
You mean like an introductory paragraph? So like something to change it up? Is that what you're talking about? Because obviously there is valuable content on those. Like people could go to a particular category and go find a whole load of stuff I've written about elsewhere. But I'd kind of given up on category pages a long time ago.
Yeah, no, I think the trick right now is lots of content. Like treat it like a page almost. And
wow, never thought of that.
Maybe have the first category maybe just right above the fold and have enough content on there for Google to crawl still.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's something I haven't done either. So I don't know if it works really well yet. I can't say that for sure, but I'm going to try it myself because I think it could, I could see it working.
Yeah. Watch this space.
Excellent. Jackie, any thoughts on categories and tags? And, what are your thoughts on breadcrumbs as well? I know a lot of people like to use breadcrumbs. What do you think about that as an internal linking strategy?
Well, first of all, on the tags, the one thing, I don't know if it's still a problem with how WordPress does it, but back at a time, based on whether you capitalized the word or didn't, you got 2 of them instead. And like if you had a color red and you spelled it with a capital R and a lowercase r, they actually turned out to be 2 separate tags. I don't know if that's been fixed now, but I've seen many client sites where I've gone and seen multiple versions of a tag name show up based on spelling and how they spelled it. So yeah, categories I think are kind of worthless and shouldn't really spend as much time on that. The tags, categories, yeah. Yes, definitely spend time on categories. And I really like the suggestions that Brian made, and I think it's worth investigating that and seeing. And it goes back to what I was doing back 10 years ago with my e-commerce. I was basically building a lot of like archive pages that listed these products, but in with unique content on each page. So yeah, and I think we overlook doing that. We think most of the traffic, as Lee was saying, is coming to the actual post or the page that you've written, and kind of neglecting that aggregate approach of putting things together and then putting some unique content on that page. So that makes a lot of sense. I like breadcrumbs. Typically on sites that are not very complex, It is nice to have a way to figure out where you are on a page. There's other ways to do it. You can have, cues in your navigation as to what page you're on or what the parent page is. But even then, a lot of times you're thinking about users now, user experience, and
Right.
they may not be, oh yeah, this is lit up here and you've got an underline on there because I'm on a subcategory page of this navigation menu. Isn't that great? No, I don't think they're thinking about that at all or realizing that that's why that might even be there. So I think breadcrumbs do come in handy. The challenge is when you've got multiple categories on the breadcrumbs and how they landed on that page can be confusing if you have multiple ones, and then you're trying to make a decision. Do you want to show all of those breadcrumb trails, or do you want to just pick a main one that you're going to show? And I think that's where it all starts to fall apart.
Well, that's something interesting. Like, say if you had an e-commerce store and you had different categories for products, you could potentially have duplicate content if you're using breadcrumbs. Yep. Okay.
Yep.
So that's something to safeguard against for sure. Lee, when it comes to just internal structure, how many clicks away, how many clicks ideally should people be able to get to stuff? What's your thoughts on putting stuff like too far away from anywhere that they would land? How do you think about site architecture in those terms?
Sure. Well, for me, if I can get away with getting them to wherever it needs to be in one click, then I will. So we did that very much so on leejacksondev.com and the Angled Crown site, which is essentially going to have all that content ported over. So I'm petrified to know what's going to happen to our SEO when I change the domain. But anyway, another story. We try and make it one click to max, and it seems to be quite heavily adopted in a lot of the agencies that we're working with as well. I think it used to be if they can't get there in 2 or 3 clicks, etc. But I think with the internet speeding up, everything's loading faster, etc. People are actually getting lazier and more impatient, aren't they? So if they can't get to what it is, they're going to bounce quickly. So, when people land on their page, they can get straight to the podcast. WP-Tonic does this well. Again, we're going to plug WP-Tonic.com. But you've got everything right up at the top there. You can get straight in to go and find out about what service support packages there are. You can go straight into the podcast. There's no hunting and pecking around, etc. So I'm a big advocate for, find out what those key things are that people are going to want to go and do. And then give them an easy way to get there, a quick jump, etc. And then there are other things that maybe aren't so important, etc. that, maybe take 2 clicks. And this is only my humble opinion, but I know how lazy I am. And if I can't find something on a website, and if I even have to scroll down to the footer to go find something, I'm going to be peeved and probably not stay very long.
Yeah, here's a good thought. And here's a question for Brian when it comes to like stuff in the footer. Sometimes on sites you'll see like footers, they're like kind of sparse, but sometimes you'll see them jam-packed with links. Yeah. When it comes to determining like what goes in the footer, do you utilize like footer links for internal linking for SEO to accentuate like what pages you might want to have rank, or is that just kind of like a catch-all for like anything that people might want to find that's kind of secondary?
No, footer links hold so much power, and I was actually doing tests with this over this last month and experimenting with this. And 2 of the terms I was trying to rank for, let's put it in this perspective. I had a blog post trying to rank for this keyword, a very good blog post, and it was probably the 3rd page of Google, and I'd spent about a month on it, so it was not very good success. I did a landing page and put that link in the footer of the site, and I was on the 1st page of Google within 24 hours. So it does matter, I think, the domain authority of your main homepage and your main site, all the links you have, all that stuff comes into consideration. But your footer links can really affect your internal linking structure and the power that Google will see that page has. So I didn't used to be a big fan of footer links, and you see Amazon and all these places just doing all these footer links, and now I almost think I know why they're doing that. It's because those pages will instantly rank better just putting it down there. It's something very simple. I'm going to try to figure out a way to do more footer links without spamming it. That's my challenge now. But yeah, the links down there, very important. on my Woorkup site, I actually have a few, like you see people doing powered by kind of with affiliate links. And actually my footer links bring a lot of my affiliate sales. Or even over articles and sidebar, the footer links are clicked one of the most. But a lot of my sites are desktop traffic too, because like Lee was saying, I don't think a lot of people scroll down there. I don't either. I would never scroll down there on a mobile device.
Great point. So footers matter on desktop, maybe not so much on mobile, but the footer links absolutely do matter. Jonathan, do you have a question?
Yeah, I've got a question for Brian. I noticed, Brian, that like Managed WP and some other WordPress news curation websites, you religiously post a lot of your articles to these type of websites. Is it a big factor in getting traffic to the posts and publicizing the articles?
It is. I think it was Matthew Barbie who did an experiment. I forget who, is some guy in the SEO industry, but I've seen this myself, more with social, but it still affects like Managed WP and all those sites. Like I've seen rankings. If you do Facebook ad, if you run $100 against one of your blog posts, your keyword rankings will skyrocket in Google. And when the Facebook ad goes off, your keywords rankings will fluctuate back to what it would have been without that. So the point where I think it comes down to, there's some social signal stuff going on there. There's traffic, I think, that Google's looking at, click-through rates. I think all that stuff matters. But if you get more traffic to a blog post, I guarantee you, your rankings will go up. So even if it's with paid advertising, you could increase your rankings. And it's almost a kind of a way to scam Google, to be honest, but it's a legitimate way to do it. The thing is, your rankings will go back down to what they would have been before that. The hope is you would have gained more links or something from the paid traffic.
Right.
Whereas after the paid traffic goes off, you're maybe 2 or 3 spots ahead of where you were before. So that's something I've been seeing, actually been very successful with lately. Boosting posts, and then when it comes back down, it's slightly above where it was before. And then just repeating that.
But what about utilizing curation, like Managed WPs?
It's the same with that one. I have seen firsthand, it was no doubt directly from it, is Reddit. One of my posts a couple weeks ago hit the front page of Reddit, and I was on the first page of Google for that keyword. And once it died down, Reddit lasts like a day or two and then it's gone. My keyword ranking went back to page 2 of Google. But I was on the first page, like towards third. And once the Reddit traffic gone, my keyword ranking went back down. And I was like, now I got to do the old fashioned hard work again. But that's the same with, Managed WP, Reddit, Facebook groups, any of that traffic, free traffic you can get, it will help increase your rankings. So not just, it's maybe, I don't think people always think of SEO as like social sharing, but it's definitely intertwined, I've been seeing in the last year.
Well, it is really, because it's linked to traffic. Much, I think, I want to see if you agree with this. It's traffic, bounce rate, domain authority, these, and maybe external link quality. These are the witch's brew that gets you where you want to get. Would you agree with that, Brian?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Like at Keensta, we have a whole Excel sheet we all share that we have places, if it's this type of article, we go share it in these 20 groups. I highly recommend everyone create their own list like that. In any type of niche, you can create your own database of places to share posts. If you spend time writing a post, you should spend just as much time sharing it, promoting it. And that will help all the hard work you've done be more successful.
I do think there is a strong correlation between number of social shares and how high something ranks. And what you're saying too, like when it comes to, you notice like when you're doing Facebook ads, like a post would go up for like a little while. And when the ad ran its course, it would come down a little bit. I think part of what you want to get is those engagement things, like people either sharing it or liking it on Facebook. I know that I'm not sure exactly like how they use it, but they do look at those signals. Another thing that I would say is, if you're going to share something, make sure it's a very comprehensive article, because I think part of the game is beating like your click-through rate for a normal article in that position. So say if like the first, if like number one always gets like 30% of the clicks and number two gets like 15 and so on, you want to beat like the click-through for whatever that position is that you're in. And another thing I would say too, like engagement, I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, without any doubt in my mind, engagement, things like comments matter. Some of the highest ranking pages that I have on my site for specific terms have the most comments. And the more comments that they get, the higher they've gone. So I would say that Google really does look at things like that. I know that's a little bit outside of like, architecture or whatever, but definitely those are things to look at.
John,
Jackie,
do you have any doubt about that, by the way, John?
None. 0 doubt.
I can actually confirm the comment thing from 2 weeks ago, because Discuss is now starting to charge people to remove their ads now. And so I actually moved away from Discuss. I've always loved Discuss because it's made stuff easy, but I've always had that thing of, I don't know if they're actually indexing my comments. And I always had this hesitation where I don't think they were. I took Discuss off, and 2 weeks after I took it off, my ranking shot through the roof, and I had so many comments coming in, I couldn't even keep up. So it's ridiculous. And it's because Google saw all this additional content suddenly. Like some of my posts have 80 comments on them, and all of a sudden the post is twice the size it was. So like you were saying, John, the comments matter a lot. So make sure your comments are indexing, or make sure Google can see them.
Let's discuss your gone for the WP-Tonic website.
Wow, definitely. Any additional thoughts? I think like basically what we've said is internal linking really does matter. Site-wide links, whether they're in your footer or your header, and the anchor text can really have an influence. One last question I think that was on my list that I didn't get to ask. I'll just ask everybody really quick because I know we're short on time, but URL structure. How long of a URL is ideal, and how long of a URL is too long? I'll start with Lee. What do you think?
About this long.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone says that, yeah.
I'm gonna make a note of that.
Okay, great. Well, I try and keep mine. I tend to use, and this is probably terribly bad practice, but I tend to for the episodes, I'll tend to do a short version. So it'll be like episode 59. So it'll be domain.com/episode 59. The actual real URL is like, I don't know, 10 feet long because it's got everyone's name in and everything. So I'm the worst person to ask.
Brian.
Well, I guess I'm going to say the opposite of what Lee, just the shorter the better, by far. And I've actually tested this quite a bit. And so you could see some increases if you shorten those URLs up. That's good news, actually.
I'll try. Because I just let WordPress do what WordPress does with the title. So
yeah.
There's me writing super long title and then
yeah. And I always do the keyword in the URL. So I mean, my URL is usually consisting of like 1 or 2 words. That's usually.
I've noticed that too. Another Brian Dean from Backlink.io, he preaches that shorter the better. Jackie, what are your thoughts on URLs? What are the perfect length? What's too long?
Ones where it looks like you're spamming it and trying to manipulate the keywords in there and just filling your URL with a bunch of stuffed keywords. So yeah, I mean, if it's shorter is good, and something that's readable too, so that somebody when they're, I tend to look at things more from the user, because I just think that Google does too. I mean, if it makes sense to people and they're visiting it, it's going to make sense for everybody. So from that regard, you don't want a cryptic URL that nobody's going to understand or not know what it means. So yeah, I like Brian's idea, you know, keep it short, but put your keywords in there, and so that it makes logical sense when you read it. So not that you have to figure out what is that? What could that mean? If you're saying that, then you probably missed the boat on it.
No, definitely. I think
Just showing a great example on the chat thread as well by Brian. So
oh, there you go.
sort of thing I would have searched for, and a really good short URL.
That's a very good example too of what to think about, because if you do a lot of searching yourself, you kind of know what the pattern is. Like if you're looking for something, and as you search more and more over time, you learn, okay, the way you word things matters about what results you get. And you kind of condition yourself to be really good at coming up with the search phrases to find what you want, and to make sure that your URLs kind of match that algorithm that you're typically using. That's a good start.
No, not everybody searches that way. So I think what you're saying is true. The order in which you put words, like in the search phrase, is going to return different results. So like the example that Lee showed is workup.com, Adobe Illustrator alternative. If you typed in alternative to Adobe Illustrator, it might return something different than Adobe Illustrator alternative.
Right.
For sure,
The actual title as well is Top 3 Options for Cheap Adobe Illustrator Alternatives, or even free. And now me, being me, would have just let WordPress do the stupidly uber long URL. So I've learned 2 things today. Maybe look at my category pages and shorten my damn URLs, and I presume I have to 301 everything now as well if I start
you
doing
have to you have to 301. Yeah.
This was a great episode for
I'm loving
takeaways.
this. Me too. Brilliant.
Yeah, but Lee, actually, I've done that on sites before, massive like that, and I've seen lots of like massive increases just doing that one thing. So you might actually see a lot of increase from it.
I will let you know next week what the results are.
I think Google actually, and I don't know if this has like ever been confirmed, but like from all the other people testing, from what I've seen, I think Google actually ignores like anything beyond 8 words in the URL. So like shorter is better. So,
And the other thing to finish off, I'd like to ask Brian, non-follow, utilizing Yoast. Are there pages, areas of sites that you manage that you make sure that Google isn't, or you're doing your best to make sure Google isn't actually indexing those pages?
I pretty much no-index everything that you can in Yoast. Even like, I think there's like the author archives. There's a bunch of other additional author pages and stuff in Yoast settings. And I pretty much no-index everything other than the blog posts. And then the categories is something I'm actually going to start indexing. So blog posts and categories is pretty much all I index. And that includes all your pages too.
All right. I was trying to listen to that, but the naughty people in the chat room.
You're terrible.
I'm tempted to ask you to repeat that, but I'm not going to waste your time. I'm going to listen to the show myself. You naughty people.
Sorry, it's just that John said shorter is better, and that just got me.
Yes, I can tell you're one of these children that was always in the back of class. Disturbing.
I'm like it in church as well. Like the guy will say something and you'll just hear me going in the background. It's terrible. I've got to stop. Brian, you're awesome. Guys, I actually have to shoot, I'm afraid.
Yes. Okay. Tell us how to find you, Lee.
So I disrupt. Find me at WP-Innovator.com. You're all awesome. Sorry I had to shoot so early, but thanks for having me, everyone.
Thank you. We love having you.
Takeaways.
Bye, Lee.
See ya.
Bye.
So the notes.
All right. And then there were 4.
So just to finish off, Brian, if you're giving some advice for somebody that was trying to improve their website SEO, is there about 3 to 4 specific areas that you think somebody should, based on your experience, should regularly aren't doing right, and they should re-look at those areas?
I mean, if you go to Keensta, actually, there's the 45 checklist I wrote about SEO, and I think that actually has a lot of good stuff in it. And it's stuff that I've learned over, the last 10 years. I put all into that article.
I'll definitely go read that.
So yeah, it's a good one. But I think some big things are, like we were saying before, shorter URLs, do your keyword research. Nobody does keyword research. So, and it's like, I try to preach this on every blog post I write about SEO, and still nobody's doing keyword research. People say SEO is dead. It's not dead at all. I mean, that's how I build all my websites. That's, if it goes away, I will have to find other ways to build websites. But right now, SEO is not dead at all.
Brian, what's your favorite tool for keyword research?
The two I use right now, I bounce between two different ones. Is KW Finder is a very cheap one that almost anyone should be able to hopefully afford. And it gives you really simple data. It's not overwhelming. So I would start with that one for anyone just starting out. SEMrush is the one I also bounce between, just because if I want to know more data about a keyword, there's other searches you can do in there.
And Zen, did you say SEMrush?
SEM,
yeah.
like search engine marketing, SEMrush. Rush.
Yep. Both of those two are good. SEMrush is expensive. I got into a grandfathered plan, so I have a cheaper plan than they actually have on their site right now. It's not cheap by any means, so I don't expect individuals to even afford that one. So I would say KW Finder is a good one to start with.
There you go. What do you say? Great episode.
Awesome episode.
I feel we should wrap this up, and maybe
Yes.
Any of the panel want to stay on for 10 minutes. We have after hours, John. But I think we'll wrap up the actual podcast now.
Sounds good. Brian, how do we get a hold of you?
You can find me on Twitter. It's Brian Lee Jackson, BRIAN, and on Keensta's site or Woorkup. I blog on those consistently all the time, either place.
No, and they're excellent articles. Definitely. Jackie, how do we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at jdelia, at jackiedelia.com, and I am the host of rethink.fm, so you can find me over there.
Please go subscribe and listen to that show. Give it some reviews too. Jonathan, how do we find you?
Oh, it's really easy. Ask me a question on Twitter. You'll find me at Jonathan Denwood. You could email me at jonathan@wp-tonic.com. Anybody asks me a question or got observation, they get a personal reply from me. I also like to point out to folks, you can see all these shows on our YouTube channel and on our Facebook page. They're all recorded and available there, aren't they, John?
Correct. Definite. Archived everywhere. Anywhere podcasts and videos are available. You can find me at my website, which is lockdowndesign.com. You can follow me on Twitter, lockdown_, remember the silent E. And you can find me on Facebook, just Facebook/lockdowndesign. For the WP-Tonic, we're saying, peace out, we out of here, and get your dose.
I just love it. So is Brian still with us?
Yeah.
He is.
Oh, he is. I think with SEO, I learned a lot from your articles, and also I appreciate the kind of personal advice you give. But I think there is still resistance, and I think a lot of it is down to doing this pre-research, like what you said, Brian.
Yeah, I think it scares a lot of people, or it's kind of like taxes. It's like an unknown thing, so you kind of ignore it until the last minute. And I know I did that this year, and I was stressing myself out.
Can you give a quick outline of how you do you mind giving like a 3-4 minute just description of the kind of pre-research you do before you write something? I think the listeners and the viewers would find that really helpful.
So I'll come up with a topic that I want to write about. A lot of topics I come up with are just stuff I learn or stuff we haven't shared with other people. So I can't help you with the topic ideas, but once you get to the data part of it, if you have an idea, let me actually just pull one up recently that I did. That'll help.
You can actually share your screen, I think. If you want to.
No.
Oh, no.
So one I did recently was about TTFB, time to first byte. And it was more of a technical article, but it was to help. There's a lot of people in the WordPress community, I think, that still don't know. They say, how do I fix my TTFB? But they don't really even understand what it is. So it was an article explaining, what it is and stuff like that. But so I would take, I first would input TTFB into KW Finder is where I actually started it out as. And let me actually go over there really quick. I can tell you what it spits out here.
Like I say, you can share your screen.
I have a lot of stuff up right now.
Oh, secret stuff.
Yeah, a lot. I would have to close about 100 tabs right now. So say I just put TTFB in here, it spits out, how much search volume is there per month from Google. And it gives you a keyword difficulty ranking. They call it a difference score. And they have like a green, yellow, red. So KW Finder tries to simplify it. If you can find green ones, go for the green ones. Just write it. Make sure you have enough content. If you have enough domain authority, that's where you can start going into the yellow and red ones. So if you have a brand new website and you see something in KW Finder that's yellow, like I wouldn't even try to rank for it. I would try to get creative at first and go for green stuff. There's always stuff you can find. You might have to get a little more creative, but if you go for harder difficulties in the medium, you're going to have to write a lot of content, like 4,000 or 5,000 words to even compete with people nowadays. It's a lot of stuff. But it'll tell you, how difficult it is, what the search volume is. And so like for this example, TTFB has 3,600 searches a month. So almost 4,000 people a month are searching TTFB because they're probably wanting to know what it is or how to speed it up. And it's a medium difficulty. And I think I can look here. Just give you an example here. Go to incognito mode here. See, we rank 4th in Google right now.
Wow.
And I wrote that a couple weeks ago.
That's fantastic.
And the way we got there so fast was the article is, let me actually just edit this post here. I can tell you the word count on this actual article. So the word count is actually a little over 2,000 words for that article. We're on the first page of Google for medium keyword difficulty. We did do a lot of social sharing though too. That helped us, but that's all been down now. So it's fluctuated. So we'll still be on the first page after all that stuff has died down. I think we were higher even before. But that gives you an example. Our domain at Keensta does have, I think, I use Moz a lot as an indicator, but we have like a 50 domain authority. So it is higher. So you kind of have to gauge that. If you're in the 30 domain authority, the yellow difficulties are going to be harder to get. You're going to have to write more or do more.
Yeah, and folks, if you're watching this after hours bit of the show on YouTube and on Facebook, what Brian's talking about with Moz is a freely available add-on to Firefox or Chrome, and basically gives you a bar and it will tell you your domain authority. That's right, isn't it, Brian?
Yep. Yeah, sorry. Sometimes I forget to mention the stuff like that. So yeah, call me out on that stuff.
Yeah.
They
But
can
it's
use like
it's really,
Open Site Explorer for that too, right?
yeah, they can.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like Brian, I tend to use the Moz because it gives them some additional, and And the other area, which is out the scope of this show, but we're hopefully in a couple of months we'll come back to it and Brian will join us, is this whole area of local, and also John is an expert on this as well, is this whole area of local search, which is a bit of a beast in its own right, isn't it, Brian?
Yeah, and that's something I used to do when I worked for the health agency. When we did local health sites, we had different clinics in different cities, and I don't do that anymore, thank God, because I hate local SEO. I just hate it. It's a whole different beast in itself, and
it really is, isn't it, Brian?
It is, and so I will never do that again. I will never help anyone. With local SEO.
Well, maybe we'll have you back on that show. Maybe we'll just have as a guest and John, because John, you spend a lot of time helping business around that. And so do you, Jackie, to some extent, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
But it is a totally. I thought I'd throw it in, folks, because it is I think both John and Jackie, you would agree, it is a totally different animal, isn't it?
No,
Yes.
we can put that on the schedule for April.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Because it is a bit of a beast, and trying to explain that, because Google's always changed. The thing that was such a pain, isn't it, Brian? Because Google is constantly changing their pathway along with that, aren't they? My God.
Yeah, the thing I hate most about the local stuff is, especially if I was managing 20 plus local sites for a while, local different clinics for our agency, and you have all these map listings and citations and things that all matter a lot for that stuff. And when you start managing 20 plus and there's like 40 different listings for each, it's a nightmare. But
the nightmare is the cold sweats begin. It's worse than being the technical
work.
Yeah.
Where Amazon goes down, isn't it, Brian?
It is. I don't know if Google Business Manager and stuff has gotten better, because that's been a couple years now. Hopefully, it's gotten better by now, but
worse, I think.
They actually made it to where like a lot of that information is obfuscated now.
okay.
They simplified it, but like a lot of like the descriptions and stuff, it's really hidden. I'll just toss this out since we're talking about that too. A lot of people have asked me, I get like at least like one question like on this, like about every 5 days. And it's people that are asking if you had a low, or if you were trying to bring up your Google review rank and then you went and got like a whole bunch of reviews all at once. The reason why it hasn't caught up is because you triggered something in Google by getting, like 13 like reviews for like the previous 5 years, and then 20 reviews in the last week, and Google said we better check this out and make sure it's legit. And so if it's going to take like longer for that to roll into your score, so just tossing that out there. So
yeah, just a couple more questions, then we'll probably wrap it up. But Brian, do you utilize the tool like I always mispronounce it? Is it Edgar?
Edgar.
Do you basically regularly regurgitate your posts in a scheduling system through social media?
I do, and I highly advise doing that. I'm actually writing a post right now of my whole.
I'm reading your mind, Brian.
Can't wait to read it.
What I do, because I feel like not a lot of people are doing it, or they're doing it wrong, and so hopefully it fix some of that. But I can tell you one I'm using. It's way better than Edgar. I got rid of Buffer. It's SmarterQ, and you can go on Woorkup on my Woorkup site and just type in the search SmarterQ or Smarter, and it should come up. And it's amazing. And I've been with that guy, the developer of this tool, kind of since the beta, since the very beginning. I've helped him with advice. I've been on Skype calls with him, helping him improve it, because it's exactly what I've always wanted. And so the tool has gotten better. He's a super smart guy. He has people on his team now. He's about to launch it publicly. It's in beta right now. I think you might be able to get in if you just sign up for the beta still. He sends out invites regularly.
So you really like that. I've been using another one which I actually think is better than Buffer, because Buffer and it's called Drum Up. and it's very
I heard of it.
yeah, it's I've been really impressed with it. But you can get a single plan for $15, and it's much more powerful than Buffer and much easier to use. It has got some peculiarities that appear through bad interface design around selecting time and day that that hopefully will go back. What I mean by it, it's web-based, and when I tried to use Chrome, my latest version of Chrome, there was some problems with selecting the day I wanted, but hopefully they've rectified that. But it was I've been quite impressed with it, apart from some UX problems.
Interesting. The other tip I have for that is don't just share your own stuff. Where I found the secret sauce was I combined Smarter Queue with Q. It's called Q, and it's actually, you can use the free plan of Q for $3 a day, and it works amazing on the free plan even. I have a couple accounts on the free plan. And it's what it does is it has curated posts from people in different topics, and it will auto share for you. And so I do it to share WordPress posts, and it does amazing. And right now I'm averaging 700, 750 plus new followers on Twitter per month, and I don't do a thing on my Twitter account. It's all automated.
Funny enough, DrumUp does the similar thing. You can put RSS feeds in, or you can just use suggestive terms, and it will find content and it will push that into your Twitter feed. I also think people forget to republish on Facebook. It's a different animal, and obviously you've got to be a little bit more subjective about when you republish it. But I think after a couple of weeks, it's quite legitimate to republish on Facebook, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And I do that with the Smarter Queue, or like you were saying, DrumUp can do it. There's probably more tools out there now that I haven't looked for a while.
I just signed up for the trial on Smarter Queue, so we'll see if I got an email from him.
Okay. If not, I can give him a quick chat. I have him on Skype. I can get people.
Okay, cool. I got to run, guys.
Yes.
Okay. But
thank you, Jackie.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Brian, I'll touch base with you. I know we needed to hook up.
Yeah, I sent you a message back, and
I know. It's cool. It's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, talk to you soon.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jackie.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
So I think we'll wrap this up, John, but I thank you so much, Brian, for coming on, and hopefully you'll be able to join us a little bit more regularly, because you're always most welcome, Brian. You always provide an enormous amount of value when you come on the shows, and I try and do that myself, and so does John. But so I just want to know how you do everything, Brian.
Well, that's part of the reason why I haven't been on the show for quite a while. It's because it's just I'll try to do once a month from now on. I'm going to keep myself to that.
Yeah, that's
fine.
And
great.
We'll take that.
Great.
Usually, to be honest, the biggest problem is the time. And it's because normally I push myself so hard during the week, my body literally just gives out Saturday morning, and I'll sleep till 1 or 2 in the afternoon. Like, I'm just so tired that, because I was up till 4 a.m. this last.
Right.
So even today, I'm on 5 hours of sleep or less.
Yeah, not too bad, actually.
But yeah, and so when you moved it an hour earlier a while back, I was like, oh no.
Well, we did that because it makes it easier for East Coast, for Jackie, and also Lee. He's based in the UK.
We can't keep him up like late at night.
Well, he wants to go out with his wife, but see, so at 9 a.m. it's 5 p.m. his time. And for
it's time for them to go out and do karaoke or whatever.
So you could do 5 to 6, and then off they go. And on the East Coast, I know it's 9, but I can't keep up till 4 o'clock at night now, being on my own.
Yeah, and I didn't want to wake up at the ass crack of dawn. So
we thought 9 was the compromise, really. So.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I'm gonna hold myself to once a month. I'll just make sure. One Friday a month, I'm gonna have to go to bed earlier.
And we're trying to get more people to join us. We had one person. It's really we just because I really like this Zoom platform, Brian, because it allows people to join us and ask questions. And it would be great if we could have. But we've only been doing it for a month on Zoom, haven't we, John? And you said it takes a while.
Yeah, I think we've been doing it on Zoom for a little over a month.
Yeah.
But it seems to be going pretty good.
And it's rock solid, and it enables us to push it to Facebook Live as well, and we can plan the episodes out and put them on a specific page, and provide a URL where people can actually register, and it will send them a reminder, like a day and an hour before the show goes live. So we think it's a really great system.
Okay, yeah, I like the interface so far. Even getting in, I didn't have to do any messing with my mic or anything. Everything picked it up. This is my first time launching, and it had my microphone and my headset set on the right thing. It was like the first time that's ever happened.
Nice.
It's great, but the thing, and I think John agrees, it has been totally rock solid, touch wood so far, hasn't it, John?
Yep, it's been good.
You know, we looked at other systems after the DBAR with Blab blowing up and the way they closed down. We looked at a couple other systems, didn't we, John? Or kind of
we did, and they would kind of be good for a couple episodes, and then like we'd lose episodes. It's like, hey, is this coming back? We'd hear nothing, just crickets. And it's like, okay, well, not going to do that, man. It's just too much risk.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Google Hangouts still don't seem to be very good quality either. I'm surprised Google hasn't improved their stuff. This seems like a lot better quality just right off the bat.
With Zoom, you can either do like low, or like high, or whatever. What do you call it? Like high def, low def, whatever. But yeah, it's good quality. Sorry.
Sorry, John. My own spin on that, actually, Brian, was that the video quality with Zoom has always been better. For a while ago, the actual audio quality seemed to be a little bit less than actual Google, actually. But I think over the past couple of months, they have actually increased the audio quality. And I think what my audio editor, because I have audio editor help us produce the show, because we're churning out 2 shows per week.
We're going to catch up to people, man. We're pretty quick here.
And
I've been seeing the stuff you're posting. I was like, how are they even doing that? Like, because I know all the work it takes, like that goes into that stuff, and
we just put it on the schedule, and then we have to do it.
Yeah, well, that's the way to do it, I guess. Yeah, I was like, you've been pushing out so many podcasts. I'm gonna have to go listen to some of them.
Well, it's equivalent. You know, I'm sure we will get. And John tells me, because John says it will happen, is that we will get into the top 6. And I feel the quality of the material with John's help, which has made an enormous difference. I think we should get into the top 3, because I think the material we're producing is just as good as the Matt report, which of the podcasts, and I'm not being disparaging to Jackie, because she does a great job.
I like hers.
Or with Kerry Deals, which also I think
we're up against a lot of stiff competition. I mean, honestly, but I mean, we feel like we're going toe to toe as best we can, you know.
And I kind of and I'm trying to match myself with the best at the present moment. And I think the Matt report is, for the content and the insight he provides, it's the overall the best quality. And I think we're producing just a similar quality, aren't we, John?
Well, I would say this. If imitation is a sincere form of flattery, I have noticed that Kerry Dills is starting to adopt, like once a month or once every couple of weeks, doing a roundtable like what we do. And I did notice that Bob Dunn is doing twice a week now too. But it's cool. So like we're pushing other people to raise their game too. So I'll take that as we'll take that as a compliment, you know. So
the one thing I've been lacking really, Brian, is I haven't been blogging. But I've been blogging because I do another podcast for my other products.
Yeah, Jonathan actually does 3 podcasts a week.
That's the real estate one, right?
Yeah, for Mailright. which is also I've been blessed with a really good new co-host, Thomas J. Nelson, who's
He's a good guy.
He's really made a big difference, and we're getting a substantial audience for that show now as well. We get about getting close to 4,500 for this show now. And for the Mailrite, it's just gone over 1,000 listeners last month. It went over the 1,000 mark, so that's really growing rapidly as well. So, but what I've been really lacking on. Because I've become totally, my two passions is one, trying to make a living, secondly, WordPress, and I've become totally engrossed, and John will tell you this, about Facebook and paid advertisement, and that kind of changed direction with Mailrite. So we've got some improvements that me and my developers are working on that will make it even more Facebook focused, the Mailrite product. And I've told John what we're up to, and he thinks they're quite exciting, don't you, John?
Yeah, like I said, and he's doing good. He's like Jonathan shared with me, he's signing more people up with that, so that's definitely headed in the right direction too. So,
but it's a hard old slog, isn't it, Brian?
Yeah.
Jonathan actually has a lot of things going, so there you go,
Yeah.
I can't believe you do 3 a week. That's crazy.
Well, and John, what people do, I am blessed with a really great external editor who does a really good job, and who has been enormously reliable, and I hope he doesn't disappear. If he does, we have to try and find somebody else, but he has been an enormous part. He doesn't get, his name's Ram, and he's been a fantastic find. But what takes all the time is hunting down interesting guests and then getting them to agree a date, the actual recording and actually getting out. And also John spends a lot of time, which it ain't my strength, writing some really good show notes, and that's helped a lot, hasn't it, John?
So we do tag team it. Like Jonathan actually got a lot of like really good people this year so far. He a lot of the people that you've seen booked in 2017, most of those were Jonathan. So, big props to him. Usually like after we get it up on, usually like the first thing is we'll get it up on YouTube. I'll do like time markers and notes for all that. I'll go ahead and copy that and put that into Libsyn, so that gets pushed out to iTunes. And then usually what I'll do from there is take, I'll listen to it again like one more time and just kind of jot notes for the episode. So, and I don't even like keep up with that as like good as I want to, but like I said, but we keep the machine rolling. It's not as good as it could be. But it's definitely like, I think improved like over the last year. And I think we're on the cusp of being in people's, brains. I really do think that. So,
Yeah. I think you should start sharing to like manage WP. I'll shoot one of your things up in there.
It feels scammy if I go in there and like start tossing them all in there. Like if we have like, you know what I mean? Like kind of compatriots like doing it. It's like, we'll see, we're not spamming.
Yeah. Well, but the funny thing is, if you look at all there's the members tab in there. If you look at all the members in there, they're all like CEOs, head of the marketing department. It's everyone at their companies putting their own articles in there.
Sure.
Like the CEO at Pagely, who is our direct competitor, he puts his stuff in there. I put our stuff in there. It's just, but it's all good content, so it's helpful for anyone else that hits it.
Yeah, it's great. Are there
your own stuff in there for sure?
Are there any other sites that you regularly that are similar that you post to?
I can shoot you a list if you want.
Oh yeah, I think it's definitely something we should do, and if you can do that, it would be great.
Definitely, just tell me what to vote up, man.
Yeah.
That's like I said, I got one for me, and then like I'm also on the WP-Tonic one, so it's like basically like a vote twice. So
nice.
there you go, so.
But it's most strange to finish off, Brian, because I get a feeling in some ways there's a duality when it comes to SEO. In some ways, you've really got to make things as simple as possible for Google. You know, like your page titles, and you're doing basic research, which I am very lax on, even though you showed me some tools. But I have become better at tagging, compressing images, religiously tagging the images. John has helped out with tagging the descriptions, just being more methodical. But in some way, this is a duality. In some ways, Google wants it as really spelled out as easy as possible. And in another way, you've got this enormous complexion of their own technology kind of indexing it all. And there's always been that kind of duality, hasn't it, Brian? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, no, it's a beast in itself. I would say, just because I'm a more technical, from the technical side of it, but I would say the keyword research, in my opinion, is the most important
you would?
thing. Because if, like that TTFB article, we get a couple hundred visitors per day now, and I just wrote that a couple weeks ago, and it's because we're ranking on the first page. When you rank on the first page, it's night and day between that and the second page. And if you do the right keyword research, you can just get, so much traffic. And some of that traffic will convert to customers. And that's the whole point of just getting as much traffic as possible.
Thanks, folks. I think we're going to, after our discussion has been broad, but I think hopefully you've got enormous value, and we'll see you next week, folks. I'm going to end the Facebook and the live feed now.
Cool.